You know, whenever I'm recording content and it's been a while, I feel like it's like going back to the gym. You know, when it's like 1 week or 2 weeks and you haven't been to the gym and you're just like, I need to go to the gym, man. It's been a while. And you're just sluggish. You're just like, I'm not on it. I'm not involved. And then as you get into the gym and you start getting the exercises in, you're doing your reps, and you're just like, you're back. It's like clockwork. Once you get into the groove of things, then it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. And that's quite similar to the how I feel with YouTube. When I'm doing the first set of recordings, I'm just like, I'm not in the mood to put this content out. I'm recording, but the content's got to get done. And then yeah, once I start recording, I'm back in the flow. I'm back in the zone of putting the content out and really just enjoying the process. But on that note, please like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate the love always and all the support and all the feedback. I really appreciate the feedback. And you know what? I always say that feedback is the most important thing that you can have in this life, because it's from people who want to actually see you do better. And even for the people that don't want to see you do better, it's good to even get some insights on their side, because you know what can be implemented from all different opinions. And to be fair, not all feedback is feedback that you need to action, but I suppose variety is the spice of life. And if you have a good variety of feedback, the ones that are sort of recurring are the ones that you should definitely be paying attention to in terms of resolving that, if you get what I mean. But yeah, appreciate the love always. I feel blessed, as I always say. I always say every day is a blessing, because it is, and Lord knows, man, we thank God always. But on that note, I wanted to talk about how I got into my first PR job, how that process started, the things I learned in the process of doing so, and sort of the, what would I call it, the lessons that I incorporated that helped me on my journey that I'm in now. And I wanted to share this with you all because there's so many things that I apply even to this day that I learned in the process. And when I talk about perseverance, like I should have a medal. I should have like a big medal and it should say Perseverance by Tariq, because I epitomize that element of perseverance and just going through it and just keep going, keep going, keep going. And with me, I've always been very much optimistic. Some would argue too optimistic, but you know, sometimes there has to be a level of optimism. But at this moment in time, I'm very much in the process of figuring out where does the lines blur between being too optimistic and too delusional. If you have any thoughts on that, please leave a comment and let me know. But let's get into this. I've been dragging this too long. And I always say that it will be a short video, and it never ends up being a short video. So yeah, man, just rock with me. So let's start from when I finished university. So I finished university, was applying for all sorts of different sort of marketing, PR roles across all various different agencies. And I was just getting rejected left, right, and center. Just wasn't happening. I wasn't getting any love from any agency or any job at the time. And it was rough. It was rough. I just finished university. I got my degree. I was thinking, yeah, this is it. I'm in the big league now. I can go and get myself a job and start earning some money. That didn't necessarily go to plan. It didn't work out the way that I intended it to. So what actually happened, once I finished university, then I actually went on to do gardening. I was a gardener for, I think, probably 6, 7 months, maybe even 8 months, to be fair. My uncle, he is a gardener, and I told him I was looking for work, and he just said, yeah, if you want to work, you can work with me. And you know me, one thing about me is I'm not a snob for anything. If it comes down to getting my hands dirty and doing the work, I'm doing the work. I have no sort of issues with any particular role or any job, as long as it, you know, can bring money to the household and, you know, things are still progressing and still moving. I don't feel like I'm too big for any sort of job. And I still feel like it applies to today, but especially even more so as I was just coming out of university, I had no complaints. I was just like, listen, if it's gonna just give me a bit of money that I can navigate whilst I continue looking for a job, then so be it, let's go. And it wasn't even like I was gonna say like the nice gardening, but it was more like cleaning gardens with like weeds and rubbish and all sorts of junk and that sort of stuff. So I would love to say that I was in like a very nice area, just like cutting the grass and mowing the lawn, but it wasn't that. It was very much gritty and basically I earned my salary. Let me just say that I earned my salary, I earned my living, and I was good. I was good. I got the job done, no complaints. I put my headphones on and just cracked on, and then that was that. But through the process of looking for jobs, I realized that it's just not going to work, man. It's just it's a tricky one. It's very tricky, and funny enough, I think that's why I'm so involved in wanting to help young people get into sort of PR or comms roles, or even just to get a job entirely, because I know how rough it can be. It can be very just daunting to be coming out of university looking for roles and then nothing's working. But through that, I did learn a lot about your positioning and how you effectively do what other people are not willing to do or thinking to do in order for you to stand out. But I'll get onto that shortly. But yeah, so what happened is that there was a family friend who hooked me up with a job at a law firm. And then I spoke to the manager at the time, and then essentially they bamboozled me into thinking the job was going to be like a marketing role. They said, yeah, we got an opening, you can come and help out. And then once you got these things done, then effectively you can move up to more of a marketing role. So obviously with that, I'm just like, you know what, that's a foot in the door. That's exactly what I need to get the opportunity. So I took the job. And long story short, I didn't do not one form of marketing in that place. But what I did do is I was an office clerk, which meant I was the office manager. I don't even know at the time if that was actually like an official role, but that was my role. I was doing a bit of everything. I was ordering water, inventory to the office. I was changing telephone lines across the actual office. I was the person that people would call on when the printer jammed or if there was any issues with the printer. And then if I even remember correctly, it wasn't even, I forgot, it's like the printer was like one of those long sort of cartridges. It wasn't like one of those smaller ones. You actually had to go and purchase it and recycle it in like a proper way. Like it wasn't a joke thing, really and truly. But yeah, long story short, they just had me doing loads of things apart from marketing or PR, anything of that sort. That's what I wanted to do, but it just, yeah, I got sold a dream essentially. And I suppose that's what happens sometimes when you're desperate for work and then you're just wanting to do something, and you can be easily led astray in that sense. And although I wouldn't say I was led astray entirely, what was quite interesting and what really became a turning point in my sort of story or my trajectory was I met a lawyer, one of my colleagues at the law firm, who's actually did a sort of traineeship, I'll call it. He'd done a traineeship before he then moved on into law, and it was called the Taylor Bennett Foundation. So he was actually the person that introduced me to the charity. And if he ever watches this, then big love to you all the time. God bless you. You're appreciated, because had it not been for him in terms of like introducing me to the element of the charity, then I'll probably still be working there now, to be fair, just changing the printers and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a eye opener for me, and that was a lesson in itself, where it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter who you're with, you can learn absolutely anything and everything. I'm a big believer in that, and that's why I enjoy just networking and meeting new people, because I'm a firm believer that you can learn from absolutely everyone. And in some cases, it can be good or it could be bad. It's all dependent on the situation at hand. But I say you always learn, and then you're always able to learn and implement it into what you're looking to do. But I digress. So he told me about the actual charity. I checked it out, and then they actually had an opening for the assessment day. And at the time, it was something where I felt, with these sort of things, funny enough, I was someone who, if there was like an application for something, before I just wouldn't do it, because I just didn't feel that I would be selected. I didn't feel that I would be chosen. For whatever reason, it was weird. It was a very weird sort of perspective, I would say, especially compared to where I'm at now. I'm very much open to put myself out there for all opportunities that align and make sense. So thank God we come a long way, man. We come a long way. But yeah, with that, I didn't do the first application. I didn't do it, and I continued working at the law firm. And up to now, I still don't know why. It must have been me thinking I wasn't going to be selected or whatever the case. I just didn't really put myself first. I wasn't being my own cheerleader, essentially. And then a few months later, it came back. It came back with the actual assessment. And then I was like, you know what? I'm doing this. I can't be working here anymore. It was good while it lasted, but we need to crack on. We got work to do. We need to step out and make these dreams a reality. You feel me? So done the application. Application was lengthy, man. It was long. And I think that's what initially put me off from doing it. And then even now, if I'm doing an application or if I'm applying for something I wanted to do, now I kind of look at it that the longer it is, the better, because that implies that the chances of other people doing it is low. And the chances of other people doing it in an actual good way is also lower, which then increases my chances of being selected. So that's how I started thinking about these things compared to before. Like, that's how I think about a lot of these things now, where I position myself as an obvious choice, where before I didn't, which is quite ironic, I would say, and quite interesting. So I done the actual application form. I got selected for the assessment day. So I was chuffed. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, no way. And you know what? Now that I think of it, it probably was due to the fact that there was so many rejections, like so many job rejections at the time. I just probably just knocked my confidence down crazy. But I suppose that's what happens sometimes. But yes. So with that situation now, so I got the assessment invitation for the pre-briefing. So I attended the pre-briefing. And then, yeah, they just gave us the lowdown of what the actual assessment will entail. And when I tell you, the assessment was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, because it was actually my first assessment. Yeah, it was my first like real sort of assessment. When I left university, I never got like a grad role straight out of university or anything like that, which meant that where a lot of my peers would have been doing this graduate traineeships and they would have done these assessment days and all that sort of stuff, I was gardening. I was gardening. So I never really had that experience, like off the bat of doing something like that. So it was interesting. So what was quite interesting is that when they released the actual assessment date, that date aligned with me working at my job at the law firm. So at the time, I had to make a decision, and I was on a crossroads. I was at a crossroads. It was a case of me either sort of staying in that job because there's a chance that I may not pass the assessment day. There's a chance I may not get it. But then if I do get it, then technically I won't be able to leave the job at the law firm because I haven't handed in my notice. I haven't handed in my notice, so then it just wouldn't make sense at the time. It just wouldn't work for me to be able to step out and leave the job to go and do this, excuse me, this actual traineeship if I got selected. So I had to really make a decision, and I spoke with everyone. I spoke with my mum, my dad, a couple family members, like the best choice. And at that time, I think it was my dad. He made it known that you need to do what's best for yourself, and that is something I always remember when I do a lot of things now. You got to do the thing that is best for yourself, and only you're going to really know and understand what it is that you decide to do. And ultimately, you have to live with the decision that you make as well. So from that, I said, you know what? I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to take the risk, and I'm going to hand in my notice. So on the off chance that I do get selected for this actual assessment day to do the actual assessment, and if I'm selected, then I can go straight into it and do the traineeship. For context, the traineeship was a 10-week program. So it was a 10-week program where you would need to be dedicated to the cause. You can't be there missing any days or missing any sort of task that you're being presented with throughout that 10-week. It was meant to be an intensive accelerator for you to understand what PR is, how you understand PR, the ropes, everything, in order to get you to a stage where you can get employment after. So I said, all right, let's do it. Handed in my notice. Very scary time. Yeah, scary to leave a job like that. But I had dreams. I wanted to get into the industry. I wanted to get my foot in the door, and I figured that was the best opportunity to do so. So on the day of the actual assessment, so with that, you need to come in like suited and booted, everything. I went to, where did I go? What was that shop called again? I forgot what it was called. The suit shop. I went to one of the suit shops. Comment below if you remember the shop. It's a high street shop. Everyone will know it, but got my suit there, came in all prepared. At the time, I had the high tops. I had to go barbers and get that lined up clean. I had to be ready. So I went to the actual assessment, and then to my surprise, there was like 30 people, 30 young people, suited and booted, ready to get their slot. And what I failed to mention is that only 6 people would be selected to be doing this traineeship. And in the traineeship, you get paid. They pay you to train so you can then go and get a job. Like, honestly, I've never come across a initiative like this since. Like, it's magnificent. I'm gonna add a description below with a link so you can see the actual foundation for yourself. If you are looking to get into PR or comms, yeah, click the link below and tell them Tariq sent you. And this isn't an ad, but the way that they've helped me throughout my career, I owe a lot to them. So it's only right that I just give them share love. I share the love, you know what I mean? So anyway, I went and done, so I went to the assessment day and there was like 30 young people there. It was mental. There was even one person who I suppose they just weren't used to the pressure. And then they left. They left before the actual first stage. So even that, I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like people are literally leaving because the pressure's getting worse. The pressure's getting worse. So what happened? So we done a few different assessments. So one of them was more of a team exercise, and it's more so how you're able to collaborate with your team, but then also to come into a place of being able to decide on something as a team, and then how you're able to present it to the senior team at the time who were doing the assessors, you would call them. And then the second stage was actually the process of your presentation. So you had to do like a 25-minute presentation of a particular company. They're launching a new product and how you would PR them and what your approach would be. So you can pick any sort of company, you can pick anything. And ironically, I picked YouTube. And I picked YouTube at the time before they had YouTube Premium, and then you can just download videos on your phone or just offline. I believe at the time it was called YouTube Red. I may need to verify if that was actually true, but it was called YouTube Red. And at the time, it was only based in America, where you could actually watch your content offline without any internet or without any connectivity. So that was the PR product that I was looking to promote. So when I talk about the importance of doing things that other people are not willing to do or thinking to do, this is what I did. If you can see this here, I've kept this since 2017. Yeah, I literally designed a whole newspaper, a front paper of a newspaper. Assessment day is here. What's the date on this? The 12th. Oh, no, it was 2018. The 12th of January, 2018. And then, YouTube unveils new offline features. So that's the point I'm making. Out of the 29 people, because that person left before it even started, out of the 29 people that was there, I was the only person that thought, oh, let me actually go and get a laminated thing that I can produce. I printed out like 4 or 5 of these copies. I kept one for myself for sentimental value, but I gave them out to the actual assessors. That made me stand out. I stood out because that was something that no one else was thinking to do or willing to do. And that's when I say that is what you need to really consider when it comes down to pushing out this sort of content, or when you're really just trying to pursue something. You need to do things that people are not willing to do. And for me, that is when it hit the nail on the head for me, when I was just like, so that is how you do it, and you need to be creative with it, and you need to do it in a way that people remember you. And also the third section of the actual assessment was a networking section. They wanted to see how you can converse with different people, or how you have conversations. And at the time, that's when I had my music blog. And I had business cards at the time. So I kept my business cards, and on the section of the networking, best believe I went around talking to everyone, and I was dishing out my business cards like hotcakes. They couldn't believe it. I was working the room like I've been there before. Yeah. And safe to say, I was selected out of the 6. I got the 10-week traineeship. I left the assessment, And then I was waiting for that phone call. They said that you will receive a phone call if you're selected. If you do not receive a phone call, then unfortunately you haven't been selected. My heart was beating, man. I was so nervous. And then when that phone rang, I couldn't believe it. I could have fell on the floor. For me, it meant a lot to me, because it made me realize the approach of doing the thing that scares you and going above and beyond to kind of get the opportunity to get where you want to get to. So following that, I went on to do the traineeship. I was there 10 weeks, as I mentioned. And following that, I got my first PR role at an agency, an integrated agency. I worked there as my first role, and I never looked back. I never looked back after that. And ultimately, the reason I wanted to share this with you all is because the journey hasn't been easy, I would say, but it's an absolute blessing to know that it was a decision that I made for myself, and it happened to pay off despite all of the times where it was a no, or I was rejected, or it just didn't work out the way that I intended it to go. And I want you all to really take that knowledge to just start applying that to the stuff that you're doing. Anything, whether it comes down to an application or whether you're looking to, pitch yourself for an opportunity, a speaking engagement, a client, do something that will make someone remember you. Something that will make people feel like this guy or this person had great energy. They wowed us, and not only did they wow us, they're committed to the cause. They're committed to what they're doing, and with that, that's it really. That's the story. That's the story of how I got my first PR job. And Lord knows, if it wasn't for the process, then I would never have understood the element of doing the things that scare you and just going for it anyway, or taking the necessary risk where needed to know that it can work. That's the main thing. I think once that happened and I was able to identify that as an opportunity, it worked. And I would say it was very much a similar thing where I left my job in 2024 and I jumped out of the plane the next day, and I decided, you know what, let's go freelance. Let's give this a good go. It all stems from the same sort of idea of not knowing how it's going to go, but let's give it a go. Why not? Why on earth not? So that's my story. And also, big shout out to the lovely people I was in the cohort with as well. I don't know if they want me to be bigging them up and putting their names out there, but you guys, I appreciate you all a lot, because like we still speak to this day. We still speak to this day, and it's been years in the making since that happened. And I'm sure they all have stories as to how they got onto the program and what it meant for them. It all varies, but the fact that we've done it together, and it's just something that keeps us very much close, like, because we all went through the same process. Not only was it a mission to get on the actual traineeship, but the 10 weeks was so relentless and so awarding that the fact that we've done it together has kept us like this, like ever since. So big shout out to them, and big shout out to you if you're still listening. Like, I do these videos saying it's going to be a short story, and it never ends up being a short story. But I enjoy the content. It's like therapy for me. It's like an opportunity just to kind of share my experiences to you all, and just to give anyone listening hope that you can switch it up and do whatever you decide you want to do. Like, despite all of the rejections or despite all the no's, there's always an opportunity for you to keep going and to keep pushing forward. And that's what I'm about. That's what I've always been about. And to know that I can do this on a level where it's helping people, and I just get a lot of feedback saying that, you know, people are watching the content and people are learning from my experiences and what I have to share and what I have to learn is a big blessing. Every video you're gonna hear me say it's a blessing, because every day is a blessing and we thank God always, I'm telling you. But on that note, make sure you like, comment and subscribe. Make sure that you check out the content below in the description box. And we're still on the journey. £1 million personal brand. That's what I'm building. That's what I'm working on. That is the goal. And you're watching me. If you want further insights into how things are going, then please sign up to the newsletter below. I share weekly newsletters every Thursday, sharing some insights that can help you with your personal branding as well, and the systems and the frameworks that you can use to also build a £1 million personal brand. And on that note, enough love, man. Always appreciate you checking in and, you know, hearing my stories and checking out the content. Big blessings to you, and I'll catch you next week. Look after.